Hi, I'm Mark McPherson, movie critic for Moviespoon.com and TwinCitiesGeek.com. So we're doing an episode of Movies with Mark today on Twitch. Where we're going to be talking about, as you can see on the side, we're going to talk about Star Wars: The Last Jedi and The Shape of Water. Though most people are probably going to be at Star Wars: The Last Jedi tonight. I guess we'll start off talking right away about The Last Jedi, and there's a lot of anticipation for it. Huge, huge press screenings, or early embargoes, so everyone's talking about it. And I almost forgot. I probably should mention my wife is up to this side here. She'll be looking in the chat, taking questions if anybody has any questions they want to mention about Star Wars. If you wanted to learn about any spoilers, I will try to keep it spoiler free. But if you absolutely need to know something, I will spoil for you if you want to. But I'll give a little warning in case anyone doesn't want it spoiled.
Just give me a minute though, because you didn't have Twitch open or anything. So
Okay.
I have to sign into Twitch.
Well, you can get on your phone if you want.
You want me to go on my phone?
Well, it'd be easier if it's right on your phone.
But I've got the screen right in front of me.
All right. Well, if you can get it logged in, it's good. Okay, so The Last Jedi picks up immediately after The Force Awakens in 2015. And it follows a lot of the same characters. This is where this trilogy could prove itself here. Because with the first one, you had this sort of pluck of introducing all these new characters and trying to get us to use them as much as possible and trying to make sure they have as much personality and charisma as possible. And now with the second film, we have to bring them in a new path. And what's really interesting about this version, well, first off, is that it's written and directed by Rian Johnson, which is very rare. Only George Lucas has kind of written and directed a Star Wars film. Most of them are just kind of written by somebody else and directed by someone else, and they kind of clash. This whole film is Rian Johnson's film, and it's really surprising how much he packs in here. There came out the recent news that Rian Johnson was going to make his own Star Wars trilogy, and one separate from this one, and you kind of understand why after seeing The Last Jedi. This is one of the longer Star Wars films. It's about 152 minutes, and there's a lot of stuff packed in here. There's enough here for at least 2 movies, maybe 3. But it's interesting that there's so much material here because he doesn't really want to waste our time, and mainly because he wants to get to as many character arcs as possible. And it's pretty cool because we actually get to see characters do a lot here. The character who has the most development, I think, is probably Poe Dameron, played by Oscar Isaac. Now, in Force Awakens, he was kind of like a bookend character. He came in at the beginning to save Finn, and then he kind of left the film for a while, and then kind of came back in the end, didn't really do much. Here he's got a lot to do. He starts off the film launching this great assault against these giant Star Destroyers, but he's got a lot to learn. He's got to understand that, you need to make better calls when you're in combat. If you really want to be a leader, you got to learn to say retreat at some points, because he's got this kind of, chipper, never say die attitude. We're going to take them all on. And he's got to realize, well, you can't really quite take them all on if you don't have the right numbers. So he's got to learn a little bit of smarts there, and also learn to, work on his feet when he might not have everyone behind him. He's got to learn to trust people who would be able to get stuff done. In that same sense, you also have Finn also doing a lot here. He's used to work for the First Order, and now he's going on the attack, trying to use everything he knows about the First Order. So he's off on his little mission, which is kind of a side mission. Won't get too much into it. I'll just say it takes place on a casino planet, and it's pretty weird. But I would have liked to see a little bit more of the casino planet, only because my biggest gripe about this film is that there's so much crammed in here. So many character arcs, so many different developments and showdowns that go on here, that we really don't have time to explore them as much, which kind of stinks because when we get to the section with Rey trying to convince Luke Skywalker to train her, you want to feel kind of what you felt in The Empire Strikes Back, and you do kind of feel that where she learns the ways of the Force and then learns the dark side, and then she's got to make her decision about the dark side. But it kind of mostly goes through the motions for it. One interesting part, though, is that because there's so much other stuff crammed in here, that while she's training with Luke, she also has this kind of psychic force connection between her and Kylo Ren. So the two of them are going kind of like back and forth, and they have some really interesting dialogues as opposed to the usual oh, I'm gonna get you. Now they're actually talking with each other, trying to figure out a little bit more of their past and unravel a lot of the big mysteries. Now I'm gonna try to abstain from mentioning a lot of the mysteries. Like I went into this film putting a little spot in my notebook saying like, okay, I'll just write down a few of the major spoilers so I avoid those in my review. I ended up filling about 2 pages worth just because there's so much crammed into this film with so many showdowns, so many secrets revealed, a couple different like character deaths. Not going to say who, but there's it's the darkest chapter is kind of the middle bridge part, so there's no guarantee about who's going to survive here. And you really do feel like nobody might make it out alive from this one. In terms of now, I think like one of the bigger criticisms I think that some people are going to have is that is it like exactly like The Empire Strikes Back? There are similar beats, but what I like so much about this film is that one of the key themes with it is letting go of the past. So it's kind of an interesting thing because like a lot of people, one of the things that a lot of people dogged on for The Force Awakens was that it was too similar to A New Hope, and it was just kind of going back to nostalgic roots and kind of like replaying the same stuff we're used to. And with The Last Jedi, it feels like it's trying to get away from that. It's if The Force Awakens wasn't really a passing of the baton, this one is a better passing of the baton because it's saying, look, that was the past. We got to get past that. This is our own thing, and we got our own characters, and there are tons of characters here, including there's probably at least like 3 or 4 new characters introduced here. And they're not just kind of like shoved in there. They all have different arcs, and they all have stuff to do on top of all the other familiar characters that are already doing tons of stuff. Like Leia's being the commanding general. She has tons of stuff to do. You have Supreme Leader Snoke, who's has an even bigger role here. You have and like the new characters you have Laura Dern playing this admiral who's kind of a little bit shrill, a little bit stern. She's trying to take bigger control of the rebel fleet here, especially when they're on the attack of like the First Order, just going after them and just pounding them in these amazingly big action scenes. And she has a really great arc too, especially since you kind of start thinking that like she might be kind of like a villain. Well, maybe that might be we're probably getting a little bit spoiled here. I will just say she does have an interesting and surprising arc, especially because like they mention a plot twist at the very beginning when the fleet's attacking, and you kind of think you know what's going on, but then they kind of throw you for a loop there, especially since when you get to the third act, it's just showdown after showdown after showdown. A lot of fights come that you weren't expecting, and that's what I think it's probably the best aspect of The Last Jedi in terms of its pacing, is that Johnson doesn't want to waste your time. Like there are tons of stuff here that he could have left hanging for the next film. Could have said like, oh, I'll get you next time, or oh, this plot will be resolved in the next film. No, most of them get resolved by the end, so that if you hate going to bridge films and you hate walking out saying, man, I gotta wait another 2 years for them to finish this crap. No, he finishes a good chunk of the arcs here, so that by the time we get to the third film, we pretty much have no idea what's going to happen. Like anything could happen in the final arc of the film. We kind of know some showdowns that will happen, but I think there's enough big surprises about who kills who reveals what, who's related to who, what strategy goes where, and who learns a valuable lesson. There's a lot of twists that the film throws you for. A lot.
Okay, now pause to breathe, because you just said that like so incredibly fast.
There's a lot to talk about. I'm trying to keep up with Rian Johnson. He made the film so fast, like bam, 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 bam. That's my biggest criticism, is that he didn't have time to enjoy a lot of the stuff, like Rey's looking into her past, and there's some cool trippy stuff there with her looking in a mirror of herself and then seeing herself inside the mirror and like these infinity duplicates of her.
Infinite duplicates of Rey.
Well, you know how when you look in a mirror and it's next to another mirror and you kind of see duplicates?
That always freaks me out.
Yeah,
That always freaks me out.
then there's a scene here that would really freak you out. It's like oh, now I'm trapped in the mirror.
Trapped in the mirror.
There is some weird stuff kind of like stuff that doesn't relate to the plot that I like to spoil, like some of my favorite scenes. Like I mentioned, probably one of the most hilarious scenes in the film is they finally reveal where the colored milk came from. Yeah, that big colored milk they keep promoting in Rogue.
So gross.
This is the best scene. Well, because it occurs during a scene where Luke Skywalker is saying, like, I'm not going to teach you, but if you want, you can follow me around for the day and see what I do on the island. And one of the things he does, and I swear he probably just did this just to weird Rey out, is he goes by the beach, and there's these huge creatures there that kind of have very long necks and very ugly snouts and lots of nipples by their belly. And this is where the colored milk comes from. So he milks one right in front of her, puts it into a container, and then just drinks it in front of her, just going...
Regular cows being milked is gross enough.
I was laughing so hard, but I'm trying to remember. I'm pretty sure he has a milk mustache when he looks at her. It's like, this is the weird crap I do here.
I was bummed that I didn't get to go to this movie with you, but when you came home and I made you tell me spoilers, I was so disappointed. So disappointed.
And I love that because I know a lot of people, I think I mentioned in my review that there are going to be some Star Wars fans who are divisive on this film. Because if you have fan theories, throw them away. Because I guarantee you are going to be...
None of the fan theories sound anything like anything you told me about this movie.
Which is great, because then you're not going to be expecting it.
The fan theories were kind of pumping me up for this movie and be like, oh, that would be awesome, or this would be cool, and then you came home and told me, and I was like, that sounds stupid.
But all bets are off.
That's like anyone who got pumped for Harry Potter the Cursed Child and then read the script. Do you know what I mean?
Kinda, yeah. It's
like, what? Bellatrix and Voldemort had a baby? It's just like, ugh.
I will say that, yeah, if you're looking for, like, fan theories about, like, certain reveals that are gonna like, if you're looking for, like, the logistics of, like, trying to connect the dots here, Johnson kind of, like, throws that out there. So, like, no, I want to tell a real story here of a character developing, and if I want to do that, you know, I'm not going to do this, like, pinpoint logic here of, like, trying to connect this character to that character. If I want these themes, these are the reveals I'm going to have. And Lucasfilm must have been okay with this because they let him go off and write and direct his own version of that. And I know it's going to piss some people off, but hey, who knows, you know, the next film. That the next film, they could just wipe the slate clean and say, no, that didn't happen. This happened. And then Star Wars fans...
Retcon the whole thing?
Just
no, don't do that.
Retcon the whole thing.
Don't do that. No.
Oh, jeez.
Did I knock the camera over? I'm sorry.
See, okay.
It's like I kept noticing I'm, like, staring over the screen in this, and I'm just...
Which is still too far.
Just give it a minute.
Okay, is it okay?
It's better.
All right.
Sorry. I'm terrible. I'm not used to this kind of thing.
I'm not used to it either.
We have one person watching, but I'm pretty sure it's me because I've got another window open where I'm logged in and then one open where you're logged in. So.
Yeah. It's yeah. Well, everyone else is probably else watching Star Wars right now.
I think there was another viewer.
Mm-hmm.
But they disappointed. So.
That's okay. You can come and go. Yeah, maybe they'll come and start talking about the porgs.
The porgs.
People love the porgs.
We're gonna eat them.
It's great. They show the porgs and like one like they're just off to the side. I like that too. There's no room for like any kind of like Ewoks type plot with them. They're just they're decoration. They're literally decoration. Like Chewbacca hangs them all over the Millennium Falcon.
They sound like tribbles in that way then. They breed by just breathing and eating. I
think they breed with eggs.
Okay.
Because like, you see brief shots of them because like they talk about like the Force and nature and like they cut to different shots of them. I think they have nests, so I think they have eggs that come there because they look like penguins, but then they're a little hairy.
Porgs are the key. The porgs don't work. Nothing works.
I was so hoping that the Porgs were going to be the villain.
That'd be funny.
Because
kind of like cartoonishly, like little kid type movie. It's like there would be a plot twist in Despicable Me or something. The minions are the real enemy.
Well, I was thinking something similar, like what are those stupid creatures like Han Solo was carrying in his little ship there, like a little aside like that, like maybe like Chewbacca accepts the Porgs, but on the way back the Porgs start like attacking the Millennium Falcon. They start eating it.
They're eating the ship. They ate all the grain.
Well, because that was my first thought when everyone was going like, "Oh, Porgs, they're so cute. I love them. They're the best thing ever."
They're to sell toys.
I know.
Let's be real.
I know that, but
when we take our kid to see that movie, she should be like, "I want a stuffy of a porg. Oh,
exactly.
They're so cute.
But if they were the villains, like I thought, like in that shot, like what if the Porgs are actually holding Chewbacca hostage on there?
If the Porgs were the villain, knowing our child, that would just increase the desire.
Probably, but I'm just trying to think, like what if they were just like eating up the ship and they had to get rid of them and just launch them out into space? Because they are a little mean to the Porgs. Like one of the first shots of them has Chewie already have one cooked and crispy, ready for him to eat.
What do they look like cooked?
Kind of like little rotisserie turkeys, kind of. Well, like they're penguins, so they got the wings and they got the little feet.
Oh, are they? They're just like
different
colored penguins.
Well, they're essentially kind of like hairy penguins without beaks. They got the little flipper wings and they got the little like web toes and all that. So
web toes.
So yeah, they just look like hairy penguins with beaks cut off. So Chewbacca just grilled one up, and then they all looked cute at him. It's like, damn, I can't eat that. Now I'm starving.
And kill them all, eat them all.
And for some reason, just takes them on the Millennium Falcon, where they just become jerks in the cockpit. They start wearing stuff. They start getting into the controls. He's just smacking them around.
They're the villains. They are.
They're pretty close in the villains.
People eat guinea pigs, so why not eat a porg?
Yeah, they're
why not?
They're Star Wars' baby.
People eat rabbits. They're cute.
Yeah.
But I still want the ones in my backyard to kind of go away.
Well, I mean,
they can be there, but if a coyote got them, it wouldn't bother me.
Yeah, but I mean, if the Porgs, I mean, like the Porgs are just kind of like, they're kind of semi-sentient, but they're just kind of like stupid. They're essentially the Star Wars version of Baby Groot.
Baby Groot.
They exist to just look cute, just cause mischief, and just smack around in the cockpit.
That's the Disney formula.
But I like it better because, like, unlike Baby Groot, they're not like central, or they're not struggling with stuff for them to do. They know what they're meant to do. They're decoration. They're just little alien creatures off to the side.
Doing a big dance sequence in the beginning, or dragging out items from an office or something.
Somebody made that like a parody Poilers post that it's like man, the Porgs were such a-holes in the film. But that rap sequence at the end, that was pretty bold. I'm very.
I like the Red Letter Media joke. I love the Nerd Crew reviews. It's just like, I know, I've seen the kind of channels they're parroting, and spot on, man.
Very cool. Very cool.
Very cool. Very cool. Yeah.
That's surprising though. Like, of all like the ridiculous stuff they were speculating on, the thing like where Rich mentioned, like, I wonder what the Porg's like when they're skinned. They answer that.
Right?
That's in the film.
Right? When I was listening to that, because I think, did I listen to it maybe again after I talked to you?
Yeah.
And I'm like,
well, they got one right. Inadvertently got one right.
Just, want to see their faces when they watch it.
Yeah. I imagine Rich will be laughing pretty hard. Well, there's a lot of... I think that should be said too. I think a lot of the humor it comes more naturally just because a lot of the jokes are more visual. Mm-hmm. Like the whole milking of the
so gross.
The milk scene's pretty funny on its own.
All the noise I'm making, I gotta take this stupid tablecloth off this table.
But the better... there's a really great visual joke with the There's a shot where it looks like a spaceship is making landing. There's smoke coming out as it slowly goes to the ground. They pull back and reveal it's just an iron, just ironing the stormtrooper uniforms. It's like that. Okay, that made my day. That's a really great bit there. I love that. I'm gonna switch to the different setting of this just so I can pick you up there.
Different setting of what?
Just on the audio, it'll pick up a little bit more there. I'm hoping it probably isn't picking up there. We'll see.
Well, the computer should pick it up. It has a microphone.
Yeah, but it's only going to the USB one over here.
Oh, really? So it's just gonna look like you're talking to yourself and that you're completely out of your mind.
And there's one person there.
Well, just Photoshop. Maybe that's just some random woman you put in there.
It's just some random woman.
It's just someone random, and you're claiming it's your wife, and they know you're full of shit.
Wonderful.
I want to use one of these emoticons that they have, but you know, I know who the Vault Boy is. I need to play more games, man.
Maybe we'll do that later.
Time for that. We had a kid take care of it.
Yep.
Sorry, I was being lazy tonight, though.
That's okay.
I was tired.
So essentially, like, I mean, The Last Jedi, it is crammed with a lot of stuff where I think we don't get to explore a lot of angles, and there's a lot of angles to explore here. But in terms of what it crams in there, and audiences today, they want a lot of bang for their buck. I think they'll definitely get it here. You are going to get a lot of, like, if you like space battles, there's lots of space battles. If you want a lot of information revealed, tons of information revealed. If you like every character to have an arc and not just be saved for another film, you'll get plenty of that here, especially with the new characters of like Laura Dern and Benicio del Toro's characters. They all get a lot of time to be on screen and actually feel like well-rounded characters as a whole. So, I mean, ultimately, like, I was kind of starting to get into, like, the more that it went on, the more I got excited for it, even for how much it tried to wedge in there and how ridiculous it sounds on paper. I think from the perspective of, like, the themes and the story that they're going here, especially with a lot of characters having doubt throughout it, was worked out really well. So for The Last Jedi, 4 out of 5 stars.
Ooh.
So yeah. Like, as if it need to be said, yeah, go see it. Everyone in the country is going to go see it.
What about all those people who seriously are not into science fiction? Because we know a few of those, right?
They'll go. Some family member will drag them in there. Somebody will drag them in there.
I guess, my stepmom saw The Force Awakens.
Yeah. Because it's one of those things like everyone's in the country's going to see it. I should probably go see it. Like Dark Knight. How many people do you think finally got off their butts to go see a Batman film just because of The Dark Knight?
Did we bring my stepmom to that movie?
We might have.
We didn't.
No.
We didn't.
Yeah, we didn't.
We didn't.
No, but practically everyone went to go see that.
Mm-hmm.
So, moving on to an even weirder film, we have Guillermo del Toro's The Shape of Water, which is...
Water had a shape.
It does. It's a very lucid shape. We're all made of water. We're all shapes.
You're a very cute shape. It's so adorable.
Thankfully, they never say that line in the film. They never make it that obvious. But yeah, this is essentially a monster film by Guillermo del Toro, and it's a fairly predictable monster film in terms of what's going on with the plot. You have this woman called Elisa. She's a mute living in 1960s Baltimore, and she works night shifts at this research facility. And then one day they bring in this amphibian man creature who they keep in this tube and this pool, and he's very dangerous, and they keep him out of sight from everyone. And then one day she's in there, and she starts noticing him, and starts feeding him eggs, and starts playing music, and then all of a sudden they hit off their relationship.
Why eggs?
Because for some reason, she boils eggs and just brings them in for her lunch. And
okay, I mean, that's fair. We eat a lot of hard-boiled eggs, so...
Yeah. So yeah, she brings in a bunch of eggs and then just decides to start bringing in more. And so they share lunch together and they start listening to a lot of 1960s music and hit it off well.
All right then.
And so eventually, they got to get to the point where she wants to remove the monster from there so that she can set him free. Unfortunately, there's a colonel who doesn't the program, played by Michael Shannon, who is a complete jerk. Like, he goes off the wall to be the nastiest villain possible. You know, he's got this huge cane that essentially doubles as a taser. He just whacks some people because there's always a little bit of blood on it at all times. He talks down to everyone who isn't his superior, including scientists and janitors and everyone there. And he's very racist too. So, cause like there's some points like I'm not sure. I think he does say the N word at some point, but there's a scene where he's addressing Elisa and her coworker Zelda, who's played by Octavia Spencer, and she's talking, and he ends up talking about God at one point because they start thinking like maybe the amphibian creature is a god because the people they found them with they thought the creature was a god. So they start saying like, do you think God looks like an amphibian creature? And Octavia Spencer's like, no, I don't think so. What do you think God looks like? I don't think he has a form. It's like, oh, well, God has a form. He's a human being. He looks like me, or you, but mostly me. And he actually says this. That's the interesting thing. Like the dialogue here is very like blunt. Like it's not like they're not trying to be very subtle here. Like Michael Shannon's very clearly racist and cussing and crude and
thinks he looks like God.
thinks God looks like him. So a little egotistical there.
What a narcissist.
God doesn't look like the creature from the Black Lagoon here. But man, what a role for Doug Jones, because not only does he plays like this creature well, and the creature is very detailed and everything. And when Elisa brings the creature home, she starts becoming more attracted to the creature, like a lot.
She's
attractive.
got a thing for amphibian
Yes.
men.
And a key thing to remember when going to this film is like if you think that if you ever find yourself at one point saying like, oh no, the film is not gonna go here. Yes, it is. It's going to go that direction.
You know, I'm actually a little bit more intrigued about this one than Star Wars.
It's got a lot more interesting stuff going on for it, just because, like, it's a, you know, you kind of see where the plot's going, but there's all these asides that you don't expect. Like, when she brings the monster home, there's that romantic tension there, and it eventually leads to, you know, a very intimate scene. And that intimacy.
So how does the reptilian or amphibian man frick frack? You know, how's he get it on?
Actually, she has this conversation with Zelda at one point. She's
Zelda?
her coworker, the other janitor lady that she's working with.
Because you said Zelda, and I thought, why is Princess Zelda?
Nintendo was in the 60s. But yeah, they do have a question where she's saying like, does he even have a, you know, and she kind of like nods and kind of like she's mute, so she uses sign language, so she's kind of trying to they don't quite translate it, but she kind of like tries to say like how the mechanics of that worked.
Because, you know, maybe his species just lays eggs and fertilizes the eggs.
We thankfully never get to that part of it, because then that would be a little too crazy. It probably might have happened after the fact, but there's a lot of great. I mean, aside from like Doug Jones and like and Michael Shannon and Lisa and like Octavia Spencer, there's some great supporting characters here. Like I think his name is like Richard Jenkins. There's a character who's an old commercial artist. Mm-hmm. Who he's not really accepted at his company. They keep saying like, oh, change it, make them look happier, make the Jello green, stuff like that.
Make the Jello green?
Well, he turns in like a really great painting for like an ad for Jello, and they say like, oh, well, we don't want red, we want green, something like that.
This is an aside, but do you kind of feel like advertisements used to look more classy, or just kind of
like the Mad Men type thing?
Yeah, there's something about it that I find appealing.
Yeah.
I don't know.
They kind of, well, they kind of reference to the fact that, you know, his job might be becoming obsolete.
Yeah.
Like they start saying like, oh, that. Well, either that or it starts becoming that he's not really accepted at the company, because the other thing that's revealed is that he's a closeted gay man.
Oh, so it happens like that one guy in Mad Men. I don't remember the character's name. He was in the first couple seasons.
Yeah, and it's never outright stated, but it is kind of, you know, it is kind of like positioned that, you know, he's not very welcome at the company. What's interesting about him though is that he's attracted to this manager at a diner. Like he's really attracted to this guy, so he keeps frequenting the shop as much as possible, and just comes in there every time and orders pie, just pie, pie, pie.
So he's channeling some Dale Cooper.
Yeah.
But also, it's like, what's with movies and people falling in love with waiters at diners and stuff? Is that just kind of like a dynamic? Are waitresses or waiters in this just inherently handsome?
Well, it's interesting. So it makes it easier for somebody to lust after somebody because then you can just go under the guise of you're just coming for food.
So it doesn't look like you're stalking them.
Yeah,
but you are.
But you are kind of. I did think it was funny though how he keeps ordering pie and like he's best friends with Elisa and she doesn't like pie as much. So every time
Elisa needs to go to the program and start eating pie.
Exactly. So every time he brings her like pie, she doesn't end up finishing it. He ends up putting it in the fridge. And they show a brief shot of the fridge, and it's nothing but slices of pie in there. Just nothing.
You know what I'm going to say now, Mark?
What?
You know me. You're talking about pie.
God dang it. It's triggering words for you, just pie.
Pie. I want some pie.
Well, it's interesting because he's a much more interesting character, and I kind of wish that the film was about him and the monster more. Because there's a point where he's watching the monster for the day, and he starts talking about how, you and I, we don't quite belong, maybe in another time, we're kind of like relics. And they kind of relate to each other, and they have this interesting dynamic between each other. The monster sort of reveals some of his powers that kind of benefit him a lot more than Elisa, even though he gets it on with Elisa. But
did she get pregnant or anything? Weird, like ugly babies. I don't know.
maybe the sequel.
There could be a cute little romance with him and I forgot the male character's name. I'm sorry. Did you tell me the male?
Michael Shannon?
Sure.
Yeah. Well, no, Michael Shannon's too crazy. Well, Michael Shannon's character, he's kind of got like the perfect suburban life. He's got the kids. He's got the.
No, the guy lusting after the dude at the diner.
Oh, the guy lusting after the dude at the diner. Oh, okay. Well, actually, I don't know if I should.
Who's stalking on the DL?
I don't know if I should reveal what happens with that, but
well, then don't.
Okay. I'll just. But yeah, that hangs out there. But going back to Michael Shannon's character, he kind of has this perfect suburban life where he's got the kids, he's got a wife who's more than eager to please him. He's got a great home. He goes out and buys a Cadillac, so he's got this big life that it's so much fun to watch him go tumbling down as the film goes on. Well, he's a jerk through the whole time, and he knows it.
He has it coming.
Yeah.
It's his comeuppance.
And they started early, too, by having the monster bites off his fingers, like in the very beginning of the film. And...
Was he, like, doing, the one with the giant pig thing?
Well, like the Hannibal type thing?
No. The one with the giant pig where the guy's being a total dick to the giant pig and, like... Maybe I shouldn't...
Giant pig?
Poor... The super pig.
Super pig? Oh man, that sounds familiar.
Okja, that's it.
Oh, Okja, that's right, the super pig. I forget.
You're the one who told me all about that movie, made me watch it, and then you don't remember it.
I'm going back to watch it. It's been 6 months.
You've watched too many movies.
You
can't keep them straight.
I relate Okja more to a hippo pig.
They call it a super pig.
But they call it super pig. That's right.
But it looks like a hippo.
It does look like a hippo with like pig ears.
Yeah. I wonder what hippos taste like. Probably weird.
Well,
they look like they taste weird.
Maybe we'll know in the future. We have super pig for dinner.
I don't want to eat Okja.
You don't want to eat Okja?
That poor little girl. Didn't end well for what's her face's character either, but maybe that's spoiling it. I don't know. Yeah. It's on Netflix, whatever.
It's on Netflix. People, if you haven't seen Okja yet, people should definitely see Okja. It's by Bong Joon-ho, the guy who made Snowpiercer.
Jake
Is it?
Gyllenhaal's really funny in it, but also a complete asshole. So
Yeah, but Gyllenhaal specializes in that.
I'm allowed to swear, right?
No,
I didn't ask you that ahead of time. I just did it.
Nobody fucking cares.
Alright, fuck this. Fuck that. What?
But yeah, like Guillermo completely goes for it with this film. Like I said, like anything you think they might not do, he goes for it. Like the romance, they try to make it as sweet and innocent as possible. Especially with Elisa, she's so sweet. She loves music. She's obsessed with like old musicals that she starts dancing.
I thought she said she was deaf. Or no, you said she was mute.
No, she's mute.
Okay.
So
yeah, you can still hear if you're mute.
Yeah, so she can't quite sing, but in her mind she has like this vision of her being like the perfect singer. So
okay.
So there's a really great dream sequence where she imagines herself singing and dancing in front of a big band with the amphibian man doing the dance in black and white, and it's
this sounds like a really interesting movie. I'm way more curious about this kind of thing than Star Wars. I mean, and I like Star Wars. I mean, I think this goes without saying. I like Star Wars except the prequels.
Yeah. Well, that should go without saying. Yeah.
I only saw part of Rogue One too, but I just kind of don't want to get franchise fatigue, so.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm diverting the conversation.
No,
I'm digressing.
But no, yeah, there is a lot of interesting stuff here where I love the film for just being so weird.
Yeah.
And it helped to elevate this kind of like fairly simple plot. It bears huge similarities to Okja, obviously, for helping the monster escape, trying to stop the monster from this very evil person who wants to chop him up.
But Okja was not a monster.
He wasn't a monster, but they considered him like essentially not like an actual creature, but like a commodity.
Yeah.
So,
food.
It's
like pig. Like regular pigs are.
Yeah, and that's how they look at the amphibian man here.
Chickens.
Like they constantly refer to him as the asset. So they're like, we need to get the asset back.
But this creature is Satan. I mean, it can communicate with people, right? And
it can't quite speak, but because like Elisa's mute, she can teach it sign language.
Oh.
So they had.
I assume just because they were interacting and getting it on that they could communicate pretty easily with each other. Otherwise, I'm like, ooh, bestiality.
No, he's very much aware of what's going on.
Oh.
Or at least I think he does. Because she makes it. She does it like she gets intimate with the creature a second time, but she tries to make it more comfortable by essentially. And this sounds weird when I say it, but it's actually pretty sweet. She floods her bathroom so that it's completely filled with water, so that they can be together in water while they make out.
That's gonna be a lot of damage.
Yeah, and they don't shy away from that either. Like they have the water like drip down. Like she lives above a theater.
Oh god.
And so like the water drips down, and they immediately complain like what the hell is going on up there? And so our next door neighbor's got to go like, no, you can't have your little aquarium sex thing going on here.
That's pretty messed up, man.
It's messed up. It's bizarre. Like the violence in this, man, they go for. Like I said, there's the biting fingers. There's a lot of blood in here. There's a really gross scene that involves a bullet wound and a finger. That's all I'm gonna say with that. So yeah, it is very gross. But it's a creature feature,
It can still be worth watching. It's like a more romantic version of the Creature of the Black Lagoon, maybe.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. It's a twist on a classic.
Well, I mentioned in my review that this film is the reason why both Guillermo del Toro should be helming the Dark Universe, and why executives will never let him do it. Because he should be helming it, because he's making a creature feature with interesting characters, a much different take on this type of story, and with actual, like, if you're going to romanticize these monsters, which we like doing, he actually makes real sweet romance here. The problem is the executives are not going to take him on, because he's got to have that sex scene in there. And he's got to have the violence be really gory and gritty, and they're not going to let them do that with the Dark Universe. So
If I'm thinking about the right person. His roots, right? I mean,
Well, you know what you're getting with Del Toro. I mean, after
Del Toro. Let's see. He did The Orphanage.
Mm-hmm.
He did Pan's Labyrinth.
Hellboy 1 and 2.
Oh, Hellboy 1 and 2.
Mm-hmm. And Pacific Rim.
Pacific Rim. What were his earlier movies?
I don't know if you know him. Stuff like he did Chronos.
I'm not familiar with that.
And then he directed Blade 2.
Okay.
And he's done a couple different small films. A few Spanish films, I know that. So
yeah, he mostly he does a lot of Spanish films, like he alternates, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think there was someone I was thinking of. What's that New Zealand director's name?
Peter Jackson.
That's the one. He started out with really gory stuff.
He did
and
some.
then he went to doing Lord of the Rings. So,
Loves that fantasy, man.
yeah.
Well, he convinced them that like I can do crazy crap in New Zealand with horror. It's like I could make New Zealand look even brilliant with like fantasy. So
yeah, New Zealand looks awesome.
But
fantasy. I mean, not just Lord of the Rings. I mean,
well, anything.
Xena and Hercules and everything.
Well, yeah, especially because like a lot of there's been some really interesting like independent horror films that are coming out of New Zealand that are taking a cue from them.
Oh,
are really good.
We saw Deathgasm. That was from New Zealand.
Mm-hmm.
And Turbo Kid.
Yep.
Was there a third one?
There's
that style or producers or something.
There's a few others. There's a really great one I love called Fresh Meat, I think it's called. It's about these. It's about these this Maori suburban family that are secret cannibals.
Oh, that reminded me of another one. The Wilder People? Something.
The Hunt for the Wilder People.
The Hunt for the Wilder People. That was an awesome
Yeah.
movie. That's a New Zealand movie.
Yep.
That was great.
There's a lot of great New Zealand
Way to go, New Zealand. Australia, up your game. Although Australia had Miss Fisher's Murder Mysteries. I really like
They have up their game. They made
what did they make?
They made a really great film called 1,000 Bloody Acres.
I haven't heard of that one.
It's about two fertilizer salesmen who make a better living by grounding up human bodies.
Okay, that works better than being a fertilizer salesman and making a terrible movie called Manos Hands of Fate. Wasn't that
Yes.
a fertilizer salesman?
That was a fertilizer salesman.
Yeah, see that, that's better than making a crappy movie.
Yeah. I want to keep talking about this. I'm just gonna finish up by the Shape of Water by saying I don't think it's Guillermo del Toro's best film, just because I think the plot is a little bit predictable, but there's enough weirdness going on here that it kept me involved, and the audience absolutely loved it. It's a great crowd pleaser. So for The Shape of Water, it's going to be 3.5 out of 5 stars. And for both The Last Jedi and The Shape of Water, you can read the written reviews for these at movieswithmark.com.
Yeah.
So you were saying about
see both of those movies. What?
Yeah, it's great.
See both.
Well,
I haven't seen either of them, but I eventually will.
Well, especially
this.
To
go to the movies, I stay home with the kid.
Well, this December is crazy there's a lot of Oscars usually like easy bait films. Not this year. There's a lot of really good films.
I see The Darkest Hour, and I loved it.
That's one of them.
I have been really fussy about movies lately, and I really loved The Darkest Hour.
There's like a glut of great films coming out. Like I still haven't seen like 3 Billboards. That one apparently is some of like the best ensemble cast that I've heard about.
I've heard about that one. Well, you probably told me about it. I think I saw a trailer for it too. Though.
Yeah, trailers have been circulating for that one quickly.
Yeah.
I also saw Lady Bird. That was really like a lot of people were promoting it as like
that one.
I really did, yeah.
Because I liked the trailers I saw for it. It looked interesting. It looked like a coming of age movie.
It is.
Sound about right?
Yep, yeah. It's about a Catholic schoolgirl in Sacramento was on her senior year and just struggling to get out of there to go to college.
The trailer reminded me of Ghost World. Is that somewhat?
Looked
more action packed though.
If
that makes sense for the type of movie that is.
Well, it's
'Cause I'm sure it's not an action movie.
it's not quite an action movie. It is one of those kind of awkward coming of age films.
Yeah.
But it's only 90 minutes and it's edited very quickly.
Oh.
Where
I think I'd like that.
Where they do not waste your time. Like because they kind of you kind of know the beats that it goes through. Like when she turns 18, she celebrates it by going to the gas station and buying cigarettes and a Playgirl. And she mentions to like the guys like, oh, it's my 18th birthday. It's like, oh, all right, happy birthday. And so she just hangs out outside there, smoking a cigarette and just reading Playgirl. And that scene lasts for about like 20 seconds.
All right.
But it gets the point across because like that's another bullet point in her life.
Next date night, it's going to be a real tough call. If any of these
It
movies
is.
are still in the theater,
Oh,
when we have our next date night, and so
Most of them will if they're going to make that push because there's a
yeah.
Cause I'm trying to. There's not a whole lot of. There's a few big commercial films coming out next week. There's The Greatest Showman, which I have seen. I will be reviewing that when the embargo lifts next Wednesday. But
I like the title.
yeah, it's the P.T. Barnum musical.
Oh,
with Hugh Jackman.
musical.
Yeah.
I saw like a couple seconds of a trailer while I was skipping through to try to watch a YouTube video.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I just caught briefly of it because I was just trying to get through, and I'm like,
yeah, I got some words for that, but I'll
maybe not as interested in that. I mean, I do like musicals, but I don't like Hugh Jackman singing.
Yeah.
Because I did see Les Mis, and I mean, it was all right. It was really sad. I cried a lot, and there are songs I like from it, but a lot of the men in that musical were really terrible singers, except for Sacha Baron Cohen. He's a good singer.
Yeah, he's got the voice for it,
Yeah. I'm telling you, it's a shame they didn't do the Freddie Mercury movie when he was a little younger.
Yeah. That would have been a lot better.
He would have been a shoo-in. I would have watched that.
Well, it's like all I'll say is that like one of the big things they're promoting with this film is that it's from the two lyricists who are on La La Land.
La La Land was a good movie.
Yeah, but I'm just
forgettable for me though.
But I'm just saying, keep that in mind though, because it's the lyricists who worked on La La Land, so it's not
the people who wrote the music, just the people who wrote the lyrics.
Yeah.
Yeah, that kind of makes a difference.
So just setting your expectations if you're going and expecting La La Land. So.
I don't remember any of the lyrics from any of the songs in La La Land, so.
No, City of Stars.
No.
Another Day of Sun.
That's like after we saw that Jim Carrey Scrooge movie, a few months later, I had forgotten I'd even seen it.
Well, it was pretty forgettable.
and I guess I watched La La Land at home because I don't get to the movies very much anymore, and that's fine with me. Just like whatever. Maybe I wasn't paying that much attention though, because I'm usually drawing or wood carving while I'm watching things. I'm not really watching things.
You might have turned out a little bit. I think maybe because you like doing that with musicals, because these kind of musicals kind of like in the background, just listen to them.
I just feel less alone when I've got music on.
Yeah.
Or a show.
That's
I did
fine.
try to watch Holiday Inn the other day, and I told you I had to turn it off because there was a blackface number, and I was like, ooh, no.
Whoops.
That's not, no.
Come
it was
Christmas
going
time.
really well until that point, although I was like a little like, they called that the maid Mammy, and I was like,
yeah,
that's not right. The kids were really cute though.
Yeah.
And it was a little weird, but also kind of cute when they had them dressed up for the New Year's thing.
Yeah.
But then when they did the blackface thing, I'm like, what the heck are you doing? I can't watch this. What's wrong with you? Why, movie?
It's
and I know it's ridiculous. I know it's not like right or fair or whatever to judge people of that time with today's standards, because I'm sure that was normal.
Well,
but it's still so hard to watch,
Well, you can recognize what's wrong with the film, but also, appreciate for what it did. Because, like, people want to forget, like, Birth of a Nation for its embarrassing
Yeah.
blackface and everything. But at the same time, Birth of the Nation was the first film to have a huge cast with these large, vast battles that were going on. So it's
Yeah.
kind of hard to forget. It's like, yeah, it's terrible for that racism, but from that technicality, it did bring about that. And especially like we were watching that musical you really like, Stormy Weather.
I love that musical. Oh, I love the song. It came on the radio sometime
Yeah.
on the jazz station, and oh, I just love that.
Well, it's got great
Love
music,
it.
and it's one of the first films to have an all-black cast.
Yeah,
But
there's not many of those.
No.
No, but it was really good.
Well, surprising. Yeah,
Now I kind of want to watch it again.
the entire cast is black in this film. But then, then you got to get to that one blackface scene there, that kind of in the
But
middle
they had
there.
blackface?
Yeah, you don't remember that?
No, I don't.
That's probably
Why
because they
are the
didn't have it.
black people doing blackface?
Because it's the bit, the minstrel bit and all that. But
Maybe I just gave them a mental pass or something.
well, because that's because there wasn't a song to go with that scene. Because they were doing kind of like a talent show type deal with the music, and they did a kind of I don't think there was a musical number between that scene. It was just kind of like they were doing like the joke type thing. But yeah, like most of what I remember, were like the great musical numbers. That amazing scene at the end there where they're all like dancing on tables and running up the stairs and all that. It's great dance moves. Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
We've got 2 viewers right now. This is
yeah.
makes me a little happy, I guess. I don't know why. But anyway, yeah. Yeah, I really loved that movie. We should watch that again. Have you noticed, I like to watch older movies,
Mm-hmm.
and they're so hard to find on Netflix. It's like they don't even have them anymore.
Yeah.
Did they take them all off? I can't find anything made prior to the 90s.
There's somebody
Maybe
wrote.
a few from the 80s, but nothing from the 50s.
Well, because that's
60s.
Netflix, like doing their branding type thing, where they want to give you the most new movies as possible. So, that's the problem. Like they've always had. Somebody wrote a big article on Netflix's problem with classic cinemas. They're not interested in it.
Yeah.
You got to go elsewhere. Like Amazon Prime has been pretty good at snatching up some of the classics, at least the cheaper ones.
Well, that's where I've been watching them now, but I still can't really find that many Marilyn Monroe or Audrey Hepburn films that I haven't seen.
Yeah.
I mean, I've seen the big ones, but there are a few other ones I'd like to see, and they're not on Prime. They're on Amazon, but you have to pay for them.
Yeah. Well, the other service that I paid for that I really like, especially for classic cinema, is Filmstruck.
Oh, you pay for that one?
Yeah.
Oh, I guess I should look at that one more since we're paying for it. I didn't know we were paying for that.
Filmstruck it's really cool. It's like for those who don't know, it's a combination of Turner Classic Movies and the Criterion Collection. So you get a little bit of both on there. And they have a rotating selection of films, but they got mostly older films. Like they've got a huge chunk of like Kurosawa's films. One of my favorite directors ever, Jacques Tati. They have most of his films there. And they do have a lot of like actor specific ones. Like I think they still have up most of Marilyn Monroe's pictures are still up there. Like I noticed they had what's it called, The Misfits, which is a western that she was in that I actually haven't seen. Yeah.
I do like westerns. We should make.
Oh yeah, they got
plans to watch that one.
they got tons of westerns. Mostly, I just got it mostly because they got a lot of great foreign cinema on there too, and especially because I've been trying to keep up with Yasujiro Ozu's early silent films from Japan, which are amazing. Like I've seen a few of them. I've still got to catch up with like a few of his ones from like the 40s, I think. So, but yeah, if you love older cinema, Filmstruck is the place to go. They have tons of old stuff, especially stuff from like the 1920s. Like they have this great documentary I haven't finished yet, but I'm working my way through. It's called like Haxan. And it's this silent documentary all about witchcraft.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I guess I didn't think about there being many documentaries in that time. It just never occurred to me, I guess.
Well, when I say documentary, I mean that it's not essentially like documentary footage. Like they show you like illustrations and some locations, and then they show like, title cards of like, this is this and such, and this is what they believed, and then they'll show dramatic reenactments of like demons and witches and all this crazy crap. It's pretty cool.
That sounds neat. It does. Yeah. There's some we watched on there. What was it? The one where the couple starts the fetish business and then they
Oh, Eating Raoul.
Yeah, Eating Raoul.
That's a brilliant film.
And then we watched the one with the bank manager who decides to rob the bank and gets this couple to help him.
Oh yeah,
My mom's texting me.
Black Sunday, I think it was called.
Yeah, I liked that one.
Yeah, they have a lot of like strange films that they probably wouldn't have any. Most people probably wouldn't be interested in, like, because that was a very small British film from the very early 70s. Like even like the print that we watched on there was actually pretty like dirty and kind of stuff like that. Like they haven't restored it very much, which is kind of a shame because it's pretty good. Like hopefully Criterion will pick up some of these.
Yeah.
Because they've done a good job. Like they finally picked up one of my favorite Japanese films ever made, Tampopo, which is all about trying to make food look epic and romantic. Like it's a Western at times. It's a street drama. It's
food, huh?
It's well, if you like food porn, this is all food. Like it's about
but
this.
Then we're gonna have to order some takeout. Actually, we don't have any places around here that delivered that kind of like.
Who cares? We're close. We'll go and get it.
Yeah.
That's
we
the
should get it maybe beforehand and then bring it and eat it
yes.
while we watch it.
Yes. Because it's the essential story is mostly about this kind of cowboy-like character who comes to town to save this woman's ramen shop, and there's a lot of talk about the philosophy of ramen and how to make it look great, and there's lots of down shots of showing it. So
I guess there's a lot of good ramen places downtown.
Of course, yeah. And then
I walked by one, but we didn't have time.
There's some very bizarre humor in the film too. Like one of the most infamous scenes there is the restaurant's method of instituting what to do if a customer chokes.
Ooh.
Like they don't do the Heimlich maneuver. Their solution is to grab a vacuum cleaner and shove it down your throat.
Well, maybe they clean out whatever's been going on in my throat that I keep choking on water with, so.
I want to go to that ramen restaurant.
I wonder what, like, because that oodles and noodles stuff, that top ramen stuff, that's not real ramen, is it?
Yeah, it's
I mean, it's tasty, but it's terrible for you because of all the salt or something, right?
Well, in terms of like anything instant being good, yeah, it's not really that good. Yeah, like if it's like quality ramen, made from like actual, homemade noodles, then yeah, it's good. But this is processed and dried and all that, so yeah, it's not good.
I heard the origins of top ramen was that after World War II or something, we gave the Japanese wheat flour and told them to make bread, and they're like, why would we make bread?
Yeah.
And so they were going to make noodles, and the person who invented the oodles and noodles, or whoever invented the whatever kind of that ramen stuff, wanted to come up with a way to make it quick and easy to make or something like that, or keep for a long time or something. And you don't know, you can buy it for like 30 cents a cup.
We'll corner the market.
Yeah.
Like they did in The Founder.
I haven't eaten any of that in 10 years.
No. Me either. It's probably just weird now.
Oh, we stopped buying it, remember?
Yeah.
We haven't bought it since well before our kid was born.
Yeah.
We were living in an tiny one-bedroom apartment, and
them college days are over.
Yeah.
No more ramen for me.
Oh, someone laughed, probably because we were talking about ramen instead of movies.
I see we got some ramen fans.
They're like, quit crapping on my food.
Hey, I eat ramen. What's your guys' deal?
I want real ramen. I mean, I'm sure like I said, top ramen's tasty. But yeah. So anyway, we should get some yummy foods, maybe some sushi and some. Not lo mein though. I've maxed out how much of that I should eat this year.
Yeah. I will.
It's so good, but it's so greasy.
I will warn you, just in case anyone gets weirded out. There's an erotic scene involving an egg in the film.
I'm intrigued and disturbed.
It's very weird. I'll say that. It's if you like Shape of Water and you want more weird crap, watch Tampopo.
What does Tampopo translate to? Do you know?
I forget. I have to look it up.
Well, that's not
It's been
that important, I guess.
it's been a while since I've seen it. I only saw a little bit of it on Filmstruck, but I remember I was in love with that film in college, so I go back and watch it. Especially like my favorite film ever is Playtime, and I went back and watched it on Filmstruck, and that alone was worth it for me.
Playtime.
Sounds sexy.
Is that dirty too?
Sounds sexy, but surprisingly no.
Talk dirty to me.
Oh boy.
Oh boy, you're turning a little red.
Oh boy, this stream's getting a little hot.
Don't worry, it doesn't show on the camera.
The camera has extra paleness.
Apparently, I don't know.
I put the pale filter on. Let me change that.
You put the. You're joking.
Yeah.
Pale. You joke, but I look really super pale. I gotta tell you. I mean, I'm not like tan to begin with, but like
On the current webcam, or
on my webcam, the wall looks way lighter than it does on yours.
Mhm.
I know we've got like this yellow light kind of thing going on, but it's like you don't see it at all on my camera, but you see it on yours.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we've. I was gonna like probably talk about it next week. I was just thinking like as like a last segment. Any particular Christmas movies you want to mention?
Well, we did just watch Home Alone and Home Alone 2 last weekend with our little girl for the first time.
Yeah.
And she's instantly in love with them. Which, I mean, how can you not? It's slapstick the whole way through. And I have been meaning to watch Die Hard again. I do enjoy that one. Otherwise, I don't know. Marcy and our kid and I were talking about Rankin Bass.
Oh yeah.
Rudolph. That's
Yeah.
Rankin Bass, right?
Yeah.
But she said she didn't like that movie.
She didn't like the Rudolph movie.
No.
Oh man.
She likes Frosty, but I don't like. I think the crappy Frosty sequels have ruined the original Frosty for me.
Oh
somehow.
man.
Because
Not the sequels, man.
all I can think about is like how in that one sequel the professor gets married, has a kid who wants to like destroy Christmas or snow or something.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
Yeah, that's the sequel. 1980s.
well, that and you and I make that joke about the thing the professor says all the time, like the way he talks.
Oh, the messy.
But we talk dirty about it.
Well, he's a creepy
And that
guy.
makes me think, he is creepy. Why is that person allowed around children? He left that little girl to die.
He's a magician who follows around kids in a magic snowman.
He's gonna kill your kids and then talk in a repetitive and kind of gross way. Or it's only probably gross because we're always making that joke. My mind's just in the gutter or something.
Mr. Magician, no! Messy.
It probably only sounds dirty to you and me.
Oh, you watch enough of it. That's why I rotate. I rotate the films with the kids.
So we don't get driven crazy. She did make me watch The Baby Boss, though. I mean, I guess
get that out of the way.
Make me. I am the parent. I could have stopped her, but you choose your battles.
Yeah.
So it wasn't as bad as you made it sound, but it wasn't good either.
The logistics of it, like I said, the character of the baby boss is interesting. Mm-hmm. It would make for like a great Looney Tunes character.
Yeah.
But for the story they weave around it, it's too weird, and it didn't make sense to me because they're worried that an eternally cute puppy that will always stay a puppy is somehow going to prevent people from having babies. But
they don't understand how reproduction works. In fact, they're like, but my mom and dad told me, gross.
Yeah.
And it's like, no, that makes sense. Babies just showing up makes no sense.
But even within the logic of its own logic of how the baby's in...
She had the belly.
Yeah. And that's the problem, is they get lost in there because the original book is just supposed to be, like allegory, like my baby's controlling, my baby brother's controlling everything, and I feel like I'm being pushed out of the house, and the film takes it literally.
And I've read the actual book. They had it at a store nearby in the children's section, and I read the thing because it's very short.
Yeah.
It's like a book you'd read to a baby.
Yeah. It's a simple
allegory.
allegory.
I read it quick. And I'm like, really? They made a movie out of this?
Because they took it literally, yeah.
They made a movie out of Where the Wild Things Are, and there's like barely any text in that either, and it's super short. But I didn't think that was a good movie either.
No.
So.
And it's because they're short, simple, to-the-point themes, and then they expand them, and they find that there's either nothing else to expand, or you take stuff literally, and then it goes into these really terrible directions.
Well, what do you think about the upcoming Grinch movie? Made by the studios that brought you Despicable Me and the Minions.
No hope. There's no hope for Illumination. I've given them chance after chance after chance, and they're done. They have nothing. They have just they've put up their feet. They've decided we're gonna do cute animation. Like I was just on the cusp of like giving like The Secret Life of Pets a pass. Just because, like, okay, there's some decent characters and gimmicks here, but the story is incredibly predictable. And then it got to Sing, and it's just like, all right, you just don't even care anymore. Because, like, they have all these arcs, and you feel nothing for them. They're all just meant for song and dance. And it got to Despicable
Me. Our kid likes them, but she thinks farts are the most hilarious thing in the world. And even using the word underwear is just, a laugh riot.
Well, here's the surprising thing about Despicable Me 3 is that it's so lazy and docile with its humor that the biggest laugh that I saw out of my daughter while watching the film was in a fart joke with the Minions that happened in the title for Illumination. If your best joke is in the title before the movie even starts, and that's it, then you know you're doing something wrong. Because a lot of these jokes are just like, the evil twin brother, it's like a show on its last legs.
He didn't look like he was meant to be evil. Oh, but with the camera angle, it's like looking up your nose. I just thought I'd let you know that. That's what was happening with me too. Because we're looking at each other instead of the cameras.
All right.
But then we're having a we're having a conversation.
Do I have boogers?
We're having a conversation with each other. But it looks like we're talking like above people. I don't know. It looks
It looks like we're playing Battleship.
You sunk my battleship!
B-15. Jesus.
We need to come up with something where we're at eye level. But not any of that crap while we're sitting next to each other.
Yeah.
Especially since I'm just kind of making you talk more and go in depth about things.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a crowded holiday this season. I mean, I'm trying to like set limits for how many films that I'm seeing. I'm like I think the last films I'm going to see this year are probably going to be The Post and maybe Molly's Game. So
who's this Molly and what's her game?
I honestly don't know. I didn't look up the trailer. But I haven't heard it as much, and it doesn't double up with anything else. Like I'm gonna have to skip ones that I did kind of want to see. Like I did want to see All the Money in the World just for the Christopher Plummer deal, just to see how that turned out.
Oh, the one where they took out Kevin Spacey
and quickly replaced it in with Christopher Plummer.
I already told you, I think what these people have been doing is disgusting.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean that they're bad at acting. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, and it's there's no like protocol for how to deal with it. I mean, it's like if you hearing about this, if you can't stand Kevin Spacey and you don't want to see his films, it's entirely understandable. You can't look at the same person again. But at the same time, it's like, yeah, it's personal preference. But, if you go back, it's tough for a lot of people because he's still like Seven and The Usual Suspects and American Beauty, and he's amazing in those films. And
he's good at acting, but he's a despicable, disgusting human being, apparently. So,
Yeah.
I mean, in the court of public opinion, he is found guilty. I don't know. I assume it's true. So,
Yeah.
it sounds like it's true. I mean, people... I mean, it wasn't surprising that he was gay to me at all. I thought that was a well-known thing. The pedophile stuff I didn't know about, but I guess Family Guy, Seth MacFarlane joked about this years ago.
Yeah, it's weird. It's like the montage of Seth MacFarlane.
Well, apparently he's just spilling Hollywood's hedonistic secrets, which is probably for the best.
It's like this.
I mean, drain the swamp? Yeah.
It's like that thing with.
I mean, I don't know. There's so many disgusting things going on.
No, it's like that thing with the
places. So
it's like that thing with The Simpsons, where it's just like they're making all these predictions, like they knew everything.
Didn't they predict that Trump would be elected? Because that's like.
And that Disney would buy Fox.
Oh boy. Oh boy.
It's creepy now. But yeah, it's tough, and you know, if you don't want to look at this film, it's entirely possible. You know, it's entirely, you know, I understand you don't want to go back, you don't want to look at it, but it's hard because yeah, you do want to. I do want to. A lot of people are saying, like, you know, oh, you separate, you know, the art from the artist, and that's kind of like despicable. Like, it's easy to do that if it's just the one person making the art or just the one person making the music. But with the film, it's a lot of different people working on it, so it's kind of like, yeah, do you want to?
People, like a whole lot of people.
I mean, like, do you want to like snub like Jamie Foxx and Ansel Elgort and just and Edgar Wright and just everyone working on that film, because it's an amazing
Driver
film.
Was a really good movie. That's the one he's talking about. With
Yeah,
Jamie Foxx.
Baby Driver.
It's very good.
It's easily one of my favorite films of the year, and it's tough to have, you know, Kevin Spacey having that come out, because then it's tough to do that, because like they're having a similar problem with the Meyerowitz stories, because they're, you know, they don't want to really promote Dustin Hoffman, even though I thought he was great in the film.
Something too. I can't keep track of all this stuff.
Yeah, it's like they're all like this at that point. So it's like I understand why Ridley Scott did what he had to do, because he wants.
Yeah, otherwise you just might as well not watch a movie, because there's probably a whole bunch of people who have done something that someone doesn't agree with, or that is probably gross or something bad, because they're all people, and apparently that's California. I don't know. I'm hoping just that one area of California,
and like
just Los Angeles, and probably not everybody.
Yeah.
I you know, definitely not everybody, but apparently there's like a whole bunch of people doing this kind of crazy stuff, which is totally wrong.
Yeah.
And disturbing on many levels, you know.
Well,
oh gosh. And I don't mean to like throw the as a parent thing in there, but man, as a parent.
Yeah,
as a parent of a daughter.
It's gross. And I mean,
it's gross.
It's hard, like it's kind of a easy decision, just like for someone like myself, because I get, you know, I'm in love with movies, and like I get paid to watch movies and judge them as movies, and it's hard to separate that. But at the same time, you know, it's just look at a film as a film is kind of like, you know, kind of what I try to do, just because that's...
Yeah. Well, that's what you have to do, right? For the position you're in.
Well, there was a perfect example of this. Like, I went back and watched... There's an interview with Siskel and Ebert where they were asking them, did you look at Hugh Grant's film differently after the scandal came out about him at the time? And, like, Siskel said, like, yeah, it affected how I watched the film, because I couldn't look at him the same way, and it deeply affected me, and it changed how I saw the entire film. And Ebert's response was like, well, Gene, tell me, does it depress you to watch Casablanca knowing that every single person who made that film is now dead?
Yeah, well, it's kind of like when we watched Fantastic Beasts and Johnny Depp was in there, and this was before, I think, all of the things with his wife came out or something.
Yeah.
But the part that made me cringe was because he was wearing all that makeup, and I've seen him in all these movies where he's just absurd.
Yeah.
You know? I mean, I didn't see Lone Ranger, but I saw Alice in Wonderland, and just...
Yeah.
You know, but I shouldn't be judging him based off of his previous roles. I don't know about whatever's going... You know, like, whatever abuse happened with his wife.
Yeah.
But try to take it as those are the characters
Yeah.
and just cringe at the fact that they don't look like I imagine them. But I should probably not do that either. I don't know. I guess it's up to every individual, you know.
Yeah, it's
what they're willing to deal with, how they can put things past, and
yeah.
I mean, I'm sure you don't really like giving money to people you think are criminals.
Yeah.
But they've already been paid, and you're gonna affect way more than just that person.
Yeah. Well,
and I don't know.
Well, it's what the porgs did, you know. I can't
Those
look at the.
Porgs.
I know.
Let's just fry them up.
It's just like the.
Fry up the porgs. Does that sound wrong? That's gonna be misinterpreted somehow, isn't it?
I don't know how the porgs taste, you know. I've never tried.
Delicious CGI.
They looked
delicious CGI.
They looked delicious in the Star Wars film.
Yeah.
Kentucky Fried Porg, you know.
Yes, indeed. Sorry, I was getting too serious.
No, I was trying to lighten porgs will lighten everything up.
Things get that way though now. I mean, it's seeping into everything. Everything is like tainted.
Yeah.
Everything.
It's all tainted. Everything is horrible. Why would it be nice?
I guess at some point you just have to move forward.
Yeah.
And be positive.
Yep.
And I'm positive that porgs taste like CGI. I don't know.
Like crispy, yummy, 100% CGI. None of that practical effects. No, well, actually, it probably is a practical effect with the cooked up porg. I think so. I saw Chewie holding it up and roasting it. So.
You told me that one character was a practical effect that hadn't been in another movie, and you were excited about that. So.
Which one?
I don't know if it'd be a spoiler.
Which character? It's a practical effect.
You talked to Luke.
Oh, yeah. Oh.
That's why I didn't say. I didn't think you'd want me to.
No, good call. I entirely forgot about that. And yeah, that is my favorite scene. There's there's a character who's a practical effect in there. Just gonna say
just leave it there. Just leave it there. Yeah. Give people something to look forward to when they watch the movie. Yeah, and I've been really good. Like, I mean, it sounds like I talked about a lot of crap from there. I've not even cracked the 2 pages of spoilers that I said I wouldn't reveal. So can you maybe tell people some other movies you're looking forward to seeing? Put that on the positive side.
The Post. I'm definitely looking forward to seeing The Post next week. Mm-hmm. I don't really know that much about Molly's Games, so I'm kind of looking forward to that. In terms of what's coming after that, I'm trying to think what's coming up in January here. The only ones I can remember right off the top of my head are 12 Strong, which looks okay. I'm not the biggest fan of military dramas. Paddington 2 I'm actually kind of interested in. So.
Paddington 2?
Yeah.
Remember when we saw the first Paddington in theaters?
Yeah.
I think you probably saw it ahead of time.
I saw it ahead of time, yeah.
But when we saw it together...
Yeah, it was tough. Well, you know, it's a kid, you know.
Well, she was a lot younger then.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, but she loved it.
She's come a long way.
She's come a long way. She watched it again. She loved it, so.
I think it was hard because of the type of theater we saw it in.
Yeah.
There's too many distractions.
Yeah.
Because she did better when we saw that Annie movie.
Yeah. Kids are tricky, you know, especially when they're that young to get them into film. But yeah, I really dug Paddington. Like I was expecting it to be just trash, and they nailed it.
It was gross out humor. Be real.
It's partially. Like when I say it's gross out humor, it's coming from like a more innocent point. It's not like. Humor. It's not trying to make the character intentionally crude.
Oh, that one part was kind of scary. So.
Yeah. Well, they try to craft a world for Paddington that he could exist within. Mm-hmm. That's kind of cartoonish and kind of a little over the top. But I like how the fact that they didn't make Paddington into like this completely like crude and weird and awkward jerk. Like he's actually a very innocent, sweet person who just happens to be accident prone.
We have the book. Have you read it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Way shorter.
Lot shorter. But they actually proved they had a point. You know, it all depends on who the filmmaker is and if they have something to say with it. Like Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs is a very short book, but
that was a good movie.
But the directors and writers, they had something. They realized they had something here. And they had something to say with it.
Yeah.
Because if you don't, you just end up like scrambling for stuff. And DreamWorks does this a lot. They end up taking these very short children's books and trying to concoct something around. Like they did the same thing with Home. Like Home just got contorted.
I never saw it. It looked cute, but you told me there wasn't much there. But now there's a TV show on Netflix.
They have a show of everything. Baby Boss is getting a show. So
is it Disney that does that or DreamWorks?
DreamWorks.
But Disney does that too, don't they? They make a show of everything.
Not as often.
I think there's a Tangled show that I've never seen.
Yeah, but DreamWorks cranks them out like one after the other.
Oh.
Like I think
they made a Croods one, didn't they?
Yeah, I think just about all their animated properties now have series of them.
What
at this
for?
point? Money.
Why?
Because money.
Hey, just be thankful there's not a Minions show, and don't tell me there's gonna be one.
Not yet. Not yet.
If I have to watch that movie one more time, I'm serious. We saw that in theaters, and I thought it was boring then. I have had to watch that movie like 10 times since then until I finally put my foot down.
Yeah.
And grew a spine as a mother and said, no more. No, I'm not watching that one anymore. Watch it, your grandparents.
You ain't watching it anymore. You're watching Labyrinth now.
Yeah, Labyrinth. I'd much rather watch... Well, actually, I don't want her to make me hate that either.
Well, you switch it up.
Yeah.
You say, like, we've watched Labyrinth now. Let's move on to something else.
Well, we don't let her watch them every day either.
No.
You know.
Keep it around it, you know. Don't let your kids control you like that.
Yeah, don't let them do that, but also, because, like we said, we've been taking our kid to movie theaters for a while now. Yeah. And our kid actually is one of those people who gives the stink eye to the other kids that are talking during movies.
Yep.
Now, so
she knows the drill.
If you train them,
she knows the drill.
They learn, and they won't be that annoying kid. Yeah. Running around in the movie theater screaming. So.
Well, if you take them enough too, they form opinions as opposed to just like, well, I saw this movie, so I guess that's what I have to like.
What was that movie you saw with her that she didn't like and she told you so? And you put it. I think you put it in the review too.
I think it was either one of the lesser animated films, like I think it was like The Wild Bunch, or
I think it was The Wild something. Yeah.
No, The Wildlife.
The Wildlife.
Or it was either The Wildlife or it was this year. There was a film called Leap. It was about ballerinas.
It was The Wildlife.
It was The Wildlife.
She liked Leap, I think.
I think she liked Leap. Yeah.
I think she mildly liked Leap, or she refused to see it.
No, she saw Leap with me.
Okay, so she mildly liked it.
Yeah, I think she mildly liked The Nut Job too, although she found it forgettable mostly. So.
I think she found Leap really forgettable too.
Yeah, there's not much to it, especially with. I mean, other than like the little dance segments they have in there, there's not much else to remember about that film except for the really awkward dubbing they put over it. Like they have Mel Brooks does a voice in there, and you can clearly tell this was a foreign production because he's ad-libbing over scenes where there shouldn't be dialogue, and he's struggling for a laugh. They just it's like they just turned on the mic and said, "Mel, be funny." It's like, oh, okay. It's like, oh no, don't do this to him.
Oh, but movies that I could watch over and over again.
Mm-hmm.
Moana. The songs are just that good.
Yeah.
I haven't had a problem with that one. There's another one that I thought was good too, but what was it? We watched it around the time. Kubo.
Oh, Kubo and the Two Strings, man.
Kubo I can watch over and over again. Too.
Yeah.
Kubo's really good.
It's surprising because it's surprising like how more mature these animated films are getting now.
Oh yeah, and not only do I like them more when they're like that, our kid likes them more.
Yeah.
Because those are the ones she wants to watch on repeat constantly.
And those are the
ones...
ones...
she does want to watch The Baby Boss and stuff like that too, but we get asked to watch the other ones way more.
Yeah. Well, because that's the flavor of the month, but if
and she'll compromise too, but she forgets about the crappier ones.
Yeah.
So.
Well, the good ones hold up. That's why, you get older...
Minions. They're everywhere.
You know, well, that's, if the good ones will hold up over time, that's why, you and I will still talk fondly about the king. That's why you and I will talk fondly about the Iron Giant,
Yeah.
but not the King and I.
The King and I?
You never saw the animated The King and I?
There was an animated King and I?
That's how forgetful it was. No one remembers the
When did that come out?
like 98, I think. No one remembers this because
I
it was.
don't remember that at all.
It is the ultimate bland film.
I think I've seen the original live action movie, The King and I.
Well, most people have. Yeah. It's a damn good one.
But no, I didn't even know they made animated. You know what? You know what is a weird thing though?
What?
You know the movie Oliver and Company?
Yeah.
So my mom took me to see that movie in theaters, and the whole time I'm like, did I see this movie already? Don't I have this on VHS somewhere?
What should I wear? When did you?
I think it's because the song was on those tapes Disney used to release.
Oh no! Actually, you know what it is.
I think I did see the whole movie.
No, you know what it is.
Was it a re-release?
Yeah, Disney would do this thing where they would, if it made a lot of money, they'd bring it back into theaters, to see if it could make more money. And I remember this because they didn't think that The Little Mermaid would make as much money as Oliver and Company.
The Little Mermaid was pretty good.
Well, The Little Mermaid was amazing.
That was my favorite movie as a kid, but as an adult, I'm like, oh, girl, get
they,
over yourself.
They didn't think that it would perform that well because they didn't think that little girls would like it. Or that.
Why would little girls not like The Little Mermaid?
No, wait.
It's like the mindset of a little girl. Are you mean Oliver and Company?
No, wait. Let me rephrase that. I said the wrong words. They thought that it would only appeal to little girls. That they wouldn't. That the boys wouldn't get in there. But they.
No, I think boys still probably like The Little Mermaid.
Yeah, boys really like that, and Little Mermaid ended up making a ton of money. That even with the box office of Oliver and Company being re-released, it still made more money that whole time. So.
Yeah, that's kind of weird. I remember distinctly when my dad took me to get my big girl bed. I picked out a water bed strictly because it had Little Mermaid bed sheets and stuff on it. I think if he had realized that, he probably wouldn't have bought that.
That was a big. Well, the merchandise of that was insane at the time too. Remember, there was that Mystery Science Theater episode. It's like, I'm putting the popcorn in your Little Mermaid bowl, Dr. Forrester. Fine.
Dr. Forrester is my favorite part of that show. It's so funny.
The good stuff holds up.
Just like mad scientists, I guess.
Well, especially I hope Pixar keeps going with this mature type filming, like the stuff they've done with like Inside Out and Coco. Like those are some of their best films.
Still haven't seen Coco either. I'll see these eventually.
Yeah.
On on our TV at home.
But yeah, they're very, very mature, very well made films that most kids will be able to follow, and that will only get better with age. That kids will just dig them.